Yeah, hello everyone. Very good afternoon. How are you all doing? So I think we all have gathered here on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, and I think it's also raining here. So how is it going for you guys? By the way, how are you? All great. Okay, awesome. So I think you can also call in your friends if they're also, let's say, interested in learning about how to build, let's say, a web development career, right? So this is what is the session about, right? So we want to talk everything that it will take for you to build a successful web development career in 2024, right? So we're going to discuss a lot of things. So, of course, the agenda is like pretty straightforward. So, we'll talk about what is software development, who is a software developer, and of course, specifically web developer. Then we'll talk about what are the required skills and qualifications. What's the how does the interview process look like? We'll talk about some sample interview questions, and then we'll all and what are the kind of, let's say, other case study questions which are asked in the interview, right? Before we even go ahead, let me give you a basic background about myself. So I graduated from IT Kharagpur in 2016. I did civil engineering, but that is not what I ended up doing, right? But over the next 4 years till 2020, I was working as a data scientist across various companies like HSBC, American Express, right? And I gained a lot of experience in machine learning and all. And then in October 2020, we started AlmaBetter, right, with the vision to educate and train people in the field. We of course started with data science, but then we of course later expanded to web development. And then as of today, I am currently heading the product engineering and analytics at AlmaBetter, right? So I also look after the infrastructure platform that we have built for our students, for our coaches, for our, let's say, internal business teams, how they're going to, let's say, build anything. So overall, I take care of all of these bits. I regularly think about, more or less every day. I think about what improvements can we do on the product side. How can we make learning and education better for our students? So that is what more or less that's more or less about me. So and as of course, as the title reads, I am the chief product and technology officer. So it's called CPTO, right? So that is more or less about me. And I think since 2016, it has been a wild ride. I think 8 saal se zyada ho gaye, right? And but things are going great. So I hope you guys will sort of find this masterclass pretty interesting. Will not take a lot of time. We'll try to maybe distill everything in like quick time. We don't want to sort of over exaggerate and overextend things, right? Because we know your time is also valuable. So meanwhile, before I even go ahead, right? Can you guys tell me a bit about yourself in the chat? So your name, your place, your work experience, or background, what's your end career goal? If you can just summarize all of that in a small sentence and put that in the chat, that will help me get some idea about who is the audience for this particular class, right? So can you guys please do that? Can you please mention in the chat, as in what's your name, place, background, what's your end goal, what's your objective in terms of career, and all of that? Okay, so Abhishek from ATC branch. All right, Abhishek, great. What about other folks? आप लोग भी बताओ, right? Let's make this a bit interactive. मजा आएगा, right? We'll have a lot of fun. So yeah, meanwhile आप बताओ. Okay, you're already working as a front end developer. Okay, Abhishek, that's awesome. Right, great. So you have already, yeah, you're doing great. I'm Praveen. I'm student in CSE with AI background. Okay, Praveen, great. I'm Ashish. You're from Delhi. You're in banking and finance. My name is Vishal Srivastav. Okay, Anushka Gupta from BCA. Okay, all right. Okay, joined Alma Better for better experience. Okay, great, Abhishek. All right. Okay, Abhishek Singh from Uttar Pradesh. I'm in from IT student. I've learned web development. Okay, I want to learn web development. That's what K Nishant says. Okay. All right. So let's get on with it. Okay, so we are more or less ready, and thank you for being participative and mentioning what are you doing in the as in currently. So you're Praveen Kumar from Mumbai. You are in sales job. All right, Tushar from CSE branch. Okay, great. So I think yeah, we are seeing some folks from like different backgrounds altogether. So Lokanath from Odisha pursuing BTech degree in the domain of computer science engineering. Okay, awesome. All right, great. So I think yeah, we are more or less ready to start, and of course we'll share these slides towards the end of the class, and there could be some extra let's say discussions as well. And if you have some like serious questions that you want to get answered, please put them in the Q&A section. So because chat often gets like pretty bulky, so mention your questions in the Q&A, and I will try to answer those towards the end. Okay. So I want to know about AlmaX deeply. Okay. So, but here we are not to discuss about AlmaX. Maybe our team will discuss it towards the end. They will give you some idea. But let's not yeah derail ourselves from the main agenda for today's class. Okay, Abhishek, we'll answer that. Okay. All right. I am become a software engineer, right? And I am become okay. Great. So cool. I think let's get started, right? So what is software development, right? And because of course, in this masterclass we were specifically talking about web developer, but a web developer will be let's say a subset of let's say software developer. But first of all, let's understand what is even software and what is even software development, right? So I think most of you folks would be pretty aware what is even a software, but I just want to understand um, from you guys, right? What do you think, right? What is a software, right? कोई बता सकता है, right? Software क्या होता है? So just a quick idea, right? Not a lot of words, simple, right? But होता क्या है बताओ? What is software? Do you know? It's simple, right? We keep using software all the time, right? We are so glued to our devices, right? So phone पे software use कर रहे, right? Desktop पे use कर रहे, right? So we are surrounded by them, right? We live in the world of software in a way, right? So software is a special application solving some problem. Great, Praveen. That's a good starting point. Okay. Okay. What else? What else? Okay. What else? बताओ आप लोग. आई थिंक सम folks are already software engineers या developers, तो आप लोग भी बता सकते हो, right? Okay. All right. So basically, see, in our lives, we come across a lot of problem, right? And the problems could be like very varied in nature, right? So, for example, let's say I want to book movie tickets, right? So I don't want to go to the theater because I'm not sure if I will get a seat. So I maybe want to let's say book it let's say beforehand, right? Or maybe I want to follow some particular person, right? Who who has a great YouTube channel, and I want to immerse myself in their videos and learn something, right? Or maybe I want to book tickets, flight tickets for my parents who are coming to my city, right? Something like this, right? So, or maybe I'm traveling by a flight, and let's say the flight captain, right? They need some software, right? So that the plane can run on autopilot, right? So more or less, there's so many wide range of problems, right? That can be solved using software, right? But of course, that's not what software is, right? So software hota kya hai? What is even a software? So software is more or less, I think, what people said, right? It's an application. It is essentially a set of programs, right? What is even an application? So when we say application, we means a software application. So software application is a let's say a set of programs or essentially code, if you know. So it is essentially code, right, which is running on some computer, right? So for let's say the apps running on mobile phone, my mobile phone is the computer. For the apps running on my desktop, or let's say the apps running in my desktop browser, right? when they're used, what is the computer on which the code is running? That's my computer. So let's take example of the flight, right? So the software is, let's say, installed in the flight, right? And it is running on the airline hardware, right? As in, so there will be a lot of computers which are sort of calculating a lot of, let's say, various factors and variables, which will which will be very important in maneuvering the flight, in accelerating and decelerating, in ascending and descending. So there could be a lot of range of functions and utilities that I want to achieve through these set of programs or code, right? So I sort of bunched together some, let's say, similar looking code or similar purpose code into, let's say, some, let's say, an umbrella of programs. That is what I can call as a software, right? So it is essentially an application, a bunch of code running on some computer. It takes in some, let's say, input, and then it will give you some output, right? That is what it is more or less supposed to do. Okay. So, and of course there are like a lot of different kinds of software, right? So if you so the most common software that we might know about, right, are I think, let's say, application software, right, or what we also call apps, right? So jitne bhi apps aap dekh lo, aap apna email dekh lo, right? Think about, let's say, the PUBG game that you play, or let's say the YouTube that you watch, right? Or maybe the browsers that you sort of interact with, as in use to interact with the internet, right? So all of these are what we also call as application software, right? But there are also other types of software, like a system software, right? So a software, right, which will help us sort of run something, or do some operation on a hardware, right? That will what we call as computer. So it will the code will run on a computer hardware. And how does it run? What are the software that's required to do everything that we want to do with a computer? So it could include operating systems, right? So think about Windows, Mac, right, or even Linux, right? So these are like very useful operating systems, right? And without them, we won't be even able to, let's say, do whatever that we are able to do today with computers, right? And computers are also getting like pretty smarter in a way. They're getting really powerful day by day, right? Computers exponentially growing. So, and apart from, let's say, operating systems, we will have a lot of, let's say, drivers, or maybe, let's say, some util files, right? So there are a lot of, let's say, system level softwares which are required to run certain sort of, let's say, um, uh, programs on a particular computer, right? Because if you look at what a computer is, a computer is essentially made out of sand, right? So a computer kaise bana hai, right? Ek sand se more or less bana hai, at least the main part of it, right? Which is the integrated circuit, right? That's a silicon wafer on which we are sort of, let's say, building in, let's say, chips, and let's say billions of transistors. We're building logic gates so that they can do a lot of operations. So overall, if you look at the IC, what is it, right? It is silicon. It is extracted from silicon, let's say, dioxide, which is sand, right, which is silica. So we are essentially making computers, rocks think, right? That is what essentially this entire paradigm that we have witnessed in the last 40, 50 years or so, right? So now, of course, we have the hardware, right? And now there will be some middleware, right, which we will sort of interact with the hardware. So it could be, let's say, your kernel, your OS, right? And then you will have, let's say, some software, right, some program, some code that you can run on that particular computer, right? So it's not easy to achieve all of this that we take today for granted, right? So in fact, things have in fact gotten much more, let's say, advanced and complex. But the idea is, let's say, there is a piece of hardware, there will be some middleware which will sort of talk to the hardware and send in instructions to the hardware to do all the kind of operations. And that is what essentially running software means, right? That means I'm doing a lot of compute on my computer hardware, and that computer can be anything, right? It can be your mobile, it can be your smart watch, it can be your desktop or laptop, it can be your smart TV, right? It can be your, let's say, flight or cockpit, let's say, computer, right? It could be, let's say, the kiosk at, let's say, the airport, from where you, let's say, get your ticket. So every or even the ATM, right? So these are all let's say essentially computers, right? Because what a computer is supposed to do, right? They will take some sort of instructions from the user, and then they will execute it on the computer's hardware in a way, and then return the output, let's say through some set of, let's say, mode. So more or less the computers that we are familiar with, they all have a screen, right? That is where we see the output that is being returned by executing some program, right? So are you guys getting what a software is, what a computer is overall, right? For at least the uninitiated people who are sort of getting into this, right? Are you getting what a software is, right? कुछ idea लग रहा है आपको थोड़ा, right? So uh, so overall, once you know what a software is, right, and you can also do a thumbs up if you are able to make sense out of this, right? So once we know that what a software is, right, then of course the next important bit is, right, how do we even build this kind of software, right? What are the things that we should keep in mind, right, in thinking about what a, let's say, how can all of this sort of work together, right? Because there are companies, right, which are of course building hardware, right? So of course the companies, right, which are building chips and integrated circuits or even computers, right? So so all of them are, let's say, they are already doing their work, right? What we need to do is we already have an infrastructure or a system on which we can do some things, right? We can execute some tasks, some programs, and then get the computer talking in a way, right? So software development is the process of creating, designing, testing, and maintaining computer programs and applications, right? That's what we essentially understand, right? So how do you create a software, right? How do you write good programs? How do you even design good programs? How do you test good programs, right? Because testing is also important, right? Because you can write a code, but it's not guaranteed that your code will run in like all environments, right? In all situations, in all circumstances. So testing is very important, and then you need to maintain computer programs or maintain the software as well. So maintenance is again aspect, is a different aspect to it, right? What does a software development sort of looks like, more or less, right? At the core, it is about writing some code using some programming language, right? Because of course with AI we can speak in English and it can understand my instructions, and maybe it can write code as well, right? So I can ask, let's say today, let's say chat GPT, that hey, why don't you build a backend service for, let's say, a YouTube like system, right? And it will sort of give you a step by step recipe for how to build that. And then it will also can give you a lot of code to build various services and APIs, or maybe, and how do you build your databases. So it can give you almost everything, right? But that doesn't mean that software developers are going to become obsolete, right? What it means that, uh, let's say now a lot of everyone more or less can become a software developer, especially because of AI, right? सब कोई अब कोड लिख सकते हैं, because I know English, I know English as well. मैं हिंदी में भी बोल सकता हूँ कि भाई सीएम ये, let's say, YouTube जैसा सिस्टम का सिस्टम डिजाइन कैसे करेंगे बताओ, स्टेप बाय स्टेप, right? So all of that can be done, right? So AI can help with it, right? AI will sort of is democratizing the skill of software development to, let's say, a lot of people. But the idea is we have to become much better, right? So so this is not going to go away, right? Companies will definitely come and they will require people who can build software, right? So they are not just going to, let's say, stick to AI, because at the end AI is more or less, as of now, it is an assistant in a way, a smart assistant of overall, right? It knows how can we sort of do, let's say, good tasks, right? So it has a lot of, let's say, human knowledge combined in, let's say, one brain in a way, right? But it's not, let's say, perfect yet. And even if it's perfect, right, we are still going to build software which will require people, right? Because it's not just writing code. That's what I'm trying to tell you, right? It's not just about writing code, but more or less software development at the core is, it is about writing programs which solves a particular problem, right? And what is a program? A program is basically a bunch of code, and that code can be written in, let's say, any programming language, such as, let's say, JavaScript, Python, C++, C, Java. So there are like a lot of, right, Go, Rust, and there's so many languages out there, right, that you can use today to, let's say, write some code overall, right? and your let's say code will essentially give rise to what we call as the software or the program. So software developers, they solve real world problems, right, by designing applications that address specific needs or challenges, right? So अगर फ्लाइट बुकिंग के लिए अगर ऐप बनाना है, राइट, so you need to think about, so this that's a real world problem, right? I don't want to, let's say, go today to the airport and book my tickets, right? Physical tickets, right? But even अगर मैं एयरपोर्ट भी जाऊंगा तो उनके स्टाफ भी सॉफ्टवेयर पे कुछ काम कर रहे होंगे, राइट? So even if I go to, let's say, the airport to book my ticket, they are also using some software to basically book the tickets, right? So more or less, uh, we can have a certain we can devise certain programs to solve specific needs, and 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 developers are essentially doing all that kind of work. And one additional thing is that developers, they are building these applications or software for and which can run on multiple, let's say, devices, right? So it can run on your mobile device, it can run on your computer, it can run on the web, essentially, right? So when I say computer and the web, that means if I'm running a particular software on a computer locally, right? So think about, let's say, Zoom, right? So Zoom does not have a web interface. It is more or less an application which I install on my computer, and then it is a binary file and I'm executing that, right? um, and when I talk about web, essentially it means all the applications that I can access through my web browser, right? So for example, AlmaBetter platform, right? So it is, for example, YouTube, or maybe, let's say, Twitter, right? So I can access all of these applications or software through the web, right? And that is, let's say, one major area, and that is where the term also comes, right? Which is web developer, right? So who is a web developer? So web developers are like very specific kinds of software developers, right? Who specialize in building applications or software which run on your web browser, right? Which run on your web browser, right? So that is what a web developer is, right? So because they're developing, right? They're developing code, they're developing program so that it can run on a particular browser, right? So softwares are like ubiquitous, right? They're almost everywhere, right? We cannot think about, let's say, doing any task without software today, right? If we want to launch, let's say, a satellite to a particular orbit, you would need a tremendous amount of software, right? Because you are essentially doing a lot of compute and calculations, right? How the trajectory would be, कितना speed चाहिए होगा, किस time पे कहाँ पहुंचना, right? So we want to execute all of these computations and calculations, right? Through which we can sort of, let's say, put the satellite in a particular orbit, right? So that is, let's say, the major application. But think about and think about any domain, right? So finance ले लो, right? So इतनी trading होती है, right? People are writing software for that, right? Think about hospitals. They're using a lot, tons of software, right, to manage the patient health, patient outcome, right, to manage the infrastructure, and a lot of things, right? Entertainment ले लो, right? So think about, let's say, YouTube, or let's say even Instagram, right, or social media, right? Think about education, right? So like let's say, for example, platforms like AlmaBetter, right? So we are writing software, right? We are developing programs so that our end users can or our end students can use it, and they can achieve whatever they want to, right? We shall get any certificate after the session. All right, yeah, milega aapko. Okay, no worries there, Kranti. Okay. So I hope everyone sort of has some now good starting idea about what is even a software and what is software development, right? So can I get some thumbs up before I can move ahead? Okay, great. Uh, okay, great. So chalo, let's move ahead. So think about, so before we even, let's say, talk about, let's say, software developer and the skills that it will take for you to become that, why even bother about becoming a software developer, right? So because if you think about, right, uh, softwares are solving like virtually almost all the problems. Not, so of course they are not solving it alone. We need, let's say, an ecosystem to solve, let's say, a major problem, right? So of course we need hardware, right? We need computers, we need machines on which our code can run, right? So that we don't have to, of course, worry about all of that, right? But why do we even uh, why are we even thinking about becoming a software developer, right? So first of all, softwares can be used almost anywhere, right? So you properly define a system, how you can it can run. So there is a high demand for it, right? So there is a high demand for good software overall. And a lot of companies are using, not a lot, in fact almost all of them are using software to some extent, right? And they're getting their work done, right? So it is a very high demand, software developers in high demand, because businesses need to build software, right, every now and then, so that they can cater to all the growing needs of their organization. Second is lucrative salaries, right? So software developers, they get paid well, right? For example, let's say you compare this with a QA engineer, right? So QA engineer does not earn that well, but a software developer, right? Because it will require that kind of extra skills, and that's why they offer lucrative salary to these developers. There's a lot of remote work options, right? Because most of the things that you're going to do, right, it is not on the field. It is, you're more or less going to write code on your software, and of course do some task, but it is more or less you're going to do everything on your computer, on your laptop. So remote work options are like pretty flexible and pretty possible in software development. Entrepreneurial opportunities, right? So once you start, let's say, writing code, you can build an end-to-end, let's say, full stack app, right? You can always sort of go ahead and discover, let's say, a particular problem that you can solve, right? Because I'll tell you, right, what is so there are like millions of software developers out there, right? Even in India, right? But why is India not even producing, let's say, a classy global consumer app? There is hardly any app out there, right, from India, right? Even though there's so many lakhs of developers, totally. So the idea is, it's not the, let's say, skill. It's not, let's say, because we don't know, let's say, how to write software or how to write programs or how to code. But the idea is, we don't exactly know what kind of problems we can solve, right? And what are the problems worth being solving, right? If you are able to, let's say, do software development, right, and you are able to, let's say, solve a really good problem, right? So overall, I think so sorry, Hitesh, what's your problem, Hitesh? You're not able to understand English, Hitesh Oja? Okay. So see, my point is, you can always write good code. You can become a software developer, right? But if you can solve a really good important problem, right, then you can open for yourself some entrepreneurial opportunities, right? So you can go ahead and build your own startup, build your own business, and do things with it, right? And the last thing is global impact, right? Because let's say, if you've written a code, right, which is, let's say, helping a lot of people, right, it can have a global impact, right? Think about YouTube as a platform, right? It is so useful. It is so useful overall, and it has global impact, right? So that is why I think folks tend to think about becoming a software developer, right? So that's the more or less the motivation, right? गाइस चैट में क्या चल रहा है, मेरे को नहीं समझ में आ रहा है, राइट? व्हाट आर वी इवन ट्राइंग टू डू हियर, हितेश? Okay, guys, I would sort of really encourage if we can avoid putting any distracting message in the chat, right? So अगर आप सीखने आए हो, तो I'm really happy that you have taken out your time, and but do not distract. Please, I am requesting. Else I'll just need, I will remove you from the session. Okay. So let's maintain some decorum, right? Because I've taken out my time, so that you can learn something, right? If you already learn, if you already know, right, why are you not in this place, right? So so थोड़ा I think decorum maintain कर सकते हैं. Okay. ठीक है. So I think we already now know why to become or why become even a software developer. So there are a lot of, let's say, pros for becoming this. The cons would be, let's say, you can get some backache, right? You can, let's say, maybe injure your back, and you might have to visit your doctor, right? Because you are sitting in the chair all the day, right? And you're just writing code, right? So thoda sedentary ho jata hai lifestyle, but of course that can be compensated with doing a lot of, let's say, some physical activity, right? So okay, cool. All right, let's move ahead. So I will of course come to the salary and all of that, right? But if you now look at the career progression, right? So of course, how does the career progression look like? So you become an entry level software developer first, right? And then after, let's say, an year or two, you become a mid level software engineer, then a senior software engineer. Then after, let's say, 4 or 5 years or 4 years, you can become a team lead, right? So you can lead, let's say, a bunch of, let's say, 3 4 folks in your team. Then after, let's say, 2 years of experience, you can become an engineering manager. Now you are ready to manage around, let's say, a team, right, who is working on a particular product, right? And then once you have spent around, let's say, 8 to 10 years, let's say, in engineering, you can think about becoming a director of engineering, right? And then you can go ahead and become, let's say, CTO or chief information officer, more or less. But it's the next step is CTO, right? So of course, I didn't have to take all of this path. I had to learn a lot of things throughout the way, because this was not the progression that I was looking for. I was planning to more or less do. I was focusing on how to build the product, what kind of product would be suitable for, let's say, doing or building a good education, online education platform. So that is what I'm really obsessed with. And then of course, doing software development for that is an outcome or a consequence of that. Okay, so this is how the career progression more or less looks like. Okay, so, of course, I have already highlighted the use cases of software development, but let's just recap, right? So, think about, let's say, website and e-commerce development, right? So, if you want to, let's say, build your website, right? So, think about AlmaBetter website, right? Does anyone know what is the stack for AlmaBetter website? किसी को पता है, कोई बता सकता है कि क्या फ्रंट एंड स्टैक यूज कर रहे हैं हम लोग AlmaBetter वेबसाइट में? Does anyone know, right? What kind of, let's say, front end stack are we using for the AlmaBetter website? Have you visited almabetter.com? तो आपने देखा ही होगा पक्का. Can anyone tell me? Right? Abhishek, what about you? Right? On React, आपको लगता है React पे है? Okay. And so we have two platforms, right? One is your the almabetter.com, which is our main website, and the other is grow.almabetter.com, right? So the grow.almabetter.com, right, where you have your dashboard and all, right? So that is a React app, but our website is actually a Next.js app. Okay, so it's not written in React exactly, right? Even though there are certain things which are similar, but it's built written in Next. Okay, so Next is very user friendly in a way. It is SEO friendly. It's able to, let's say, so you're talking about dashboard, right? So that is definitely a React app. But if you think about the almabetter.com app, right, that is a Next.js app. And so of course, for website development, you can build a website by writing some front end code, by writing some, let's say, back end code, and maybe some and host it on some infrastructure. So that is one use case, right? You can do workflow automation. So you can maybe define, let's say, some workflows that you want to achieve for certain sort of automation, right? So you can do that. CRM बहुत important है, which is customer relationship management, right? Because every business would have some set of customers, and they would need some software, some platform, so that they can manage a relationship with their customers, right? So, and then mobile app development, right? Because we are now so glued to our mobile devices, right? We keep using all the apps every now and then. So mobile app development is, let's say, one of really large areas or use cases for doing software development. Then you have healthcare information systems, which hospitals are using, financial and accounting software, right? So there are a lot of, let's say, software that you can build on finance for, let's say, doing trading, and let's say maybe doing for and or maybe software for accounting. Content management system, right? So for example, in AlmaBetter we have a content management system, right, which is So there is some system, right, where we are sort of creating the content and storing the content, right? And when you access the dashboard, you get all the contents of the course on your front end. So content management system, which is more or less, let's say, more or less a backend thing, right? But we can use software to build such kind of system, right? Educational software, right? Platforms like AlmaBetter, then cyber security solutions. So of course there are a lot of, let's say, malicious or ill intent, let's say, parties, right, throughout the world, and they're trying to compromise a lot of, let's say, your even personal details, maybe your bank details, right? Or maybe they're trying to trick you, or let's say. So cyber security again has become very important, so that we can safeguard our citizens, our people, and we can sort of minimize any damage, any loss that can happen because of, let's say, some vulnerability. So cybersecurity solutions is also one of the most important use case, right? Customer support हो गया, collaboration tools हो गए, right? Let's say platforms like AirMeet, right, on which we are connected here, right? Or even Zoom, right? So these are also classic good use cases where we are now doing sort of virtual conferencing in a way, right? So these are the business use cases we are already aware. Just give me a second, I'll have some water. Okay. ऑल राइट. सो सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट में बहुत सारे रोल होते हैं, राइट? थोड़ा सा समझते हैं कि क्या क्या है एंड किस स्टेज पे कौन आते हैं. सो थोड़ा वो आइडिया लेते हैं, राइट? सो ऑफ कोर्स द मेन इज द सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपर, राइट? So these are, of course, the folks who are designing the system. They are coding, they're testing out the system, and they're uh, maintaining these applications, right? So they would know, let's say, front end, back end, and let's say they would know full stack, and they would have some idea of the infrastructure, right? Web developer, right? So of course this is not exactly correct, right? So but more or less, people, when people say web developer, they tend to let's say tend to say front end developer, but that is not the it, right? So here also, like software developer, we can have front end developer, back end developer, right? We can have full stack developer, and so not much of a difference. So the only difference between web developer and software developer is essentially, if you're writing a web based software, right, as in your software is going to run on your web browser, that means you're a web developer. That's the only difference, right? Then we have something called DevOps engineer, which is, DevOps is short for development operations, right? So there's a lot of operations and logistics required for, let's say, doing development, right? So DevOps engineers, they think about, or they are involved in integrating the development and operations process. They are thinking about how to automate, let's say, development pipelines, how to do build CDI CD pipelines, which is continuous integration, continuous delivery, and these are like very important infrastructure, or let's say anything that I want to do for, let's say, maintaining and running, let's say, a good code base, right? Then we have something called quality assurance engineer or QA engineer. So the QA engineers, right, they are not, let's say, classically software engineers per se, but their role is sort of like pretty underrated in a way. So they ensure that your software is sort of like running as it is designed intended to. So they test out the software, right? They execute a lot of test plans, they identify and report a lot of bugs, and they collaborate with developers during the development process, so that everything can sort of run smoothly, right? Then we also have someone called cloud engineer, right? So cloud engineers are those, right, who are not writing, let's say, the entire, let's say, full stack code, right? But they are more or less, they are involved in deploying and managing the infrastructure that's required to run your application on some, right? So of course you can run your code on your local computer, right? But that will not be able to, let's say, deal or handle a lot of traffic. So we might need to, let's say, scale our infrastructure where our code is running, right? So we often sort of resort to, let's say, cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, and that is where we can do a lot of. They make things easy for us in a way, at some cost, of course, But the cloud engineers are, they are specializing in deploying, managing, and optimizing everything that you are running, right? So just to take an example, so let's say on AWS you can spin up, let's say, some EC2 machine, or maybe you can, let's say, spin up some serverless functions, so that you, and that is where your code can run, and you don't have to worry much about, let's say, these kind of, let's say, ideas. Okay, great. So next, I think क्या क्या skill चाहिए, right, to become a software developer. So first is of course the technical skills, right? So technical skills में क्या क्या चाहिए? So I'll tell you, for web development, right? So for web development, technical skills would be, right, you know, JavaScript. JavaScript is the language of the web, right? And it is like pretty important if you're doing anything related to web. So learn JavaScript, learn HTML and CSS, right? Because HTML and CSS, they form the founding blocks of your web page, a page which resides on an internet, in a way, a public page. So that is important. And then how you can sort of, let's say, mix HTML CSS with JavaScript and add a lot of interactivity and functionality to your, let's say, website, right? So a simple HTML CSS web page will be a static web page. You cannot, let's say, do a lot of things, right? So but if you think about, let's say, the purpose of, let's say, the most important web applications, right? It's more or less about, let's say, sending data here and there, right? So as a consumer, right, as a visitor, I can submit a form, and that can send a data via post API to the servers of the institution, right? Or maybe if I'm accessing the platform, I'm requesting the information from the servers, right? And I am getting those information in a particular layout or in a particular format, right? So including JavaScript, right, it adds a lot of interactivity in your website, right? And now you can do a lot of things, right? So now you know HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You can learn a good front end framework such as React, right, which can give you a lot of really good tools to make your front end app much better, right? So you can learn about hooks, you can learn about technologies like Redux, right? So these are the things which will help you make a good front end developer, right? So front end developer बनने के लिए क्या क्या चाहिए? सही HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then some front end framework. कुछ tailwind CSS भी कर सकते हो, or maybe let's say you can do React. So this is that, right? Then comes the backend part, right, where you can learn Node.js, right, which is a server, which is a JavaScript runtime environment meant to execute JavaScript code on a server, right? Usually, the JavaScript code is more or less compiled on the browser, right? But Node.js gives you functionality to execute JavaScript code on a server, right? So now you learn Node, you can build, let's say, Node APIs, right? You can build, let's say, Express servers, right, which is a backend server required for your backend app, because you're going to deploy it or host it somewhere. And then you'll need to build your databases, right? So you need to think about, how can I build a particular database which will store this kind of information, right? So what are the tables would I need, what will be the schema for those tables, right? So you need to learn about those. Then then of course, once you know all of this, right, so last step would be doing some sort of API integration, right, on front end, right, with back end, right? So that is thing. And now you have a full stack app, right? You have the backend, you have a backend server running, and your front end is also live, right? It is some website like, let's say, almabetter.com, right? And it is, and you're sort of, right? So let's look at almabetter.com, right? So I'll just give you some idea, right? So okay, so I'm just sharing my screen, right? So so if you look at, let's say, the AlmaBetter website, right? So there's so many things which are happening. Let's say not this. Wait a second. So okay, so maybe, all right. So when I load the website, you can see a lot of files which are requested, right? A lot of files. You can see some JSON and all, and this is where, um, right? So you can see a lot of different types of files are here. So if I do all, right, so I can see some images, some different sets of information altogether, right? But if you look at fetch etc, right, this is essentially all the APIs, right, which are invoked so that I can get some data, right? So for example, let's say this is the get API for some service, right? Think about, let's say, the doc, there is some CSS files, right? We'll learn, you learn in the, of course, module what is CSS, then of course a lot of JavaScript, right? So you can see, so we are sort of essentially, whenever I access almabetter.com, right, I'm requesting for a lot of files and data, right? Of course, it all at the end, when you actually see, right, it all comes together and it looks like pretty nice, right? So if you look at the master's page, right, it all looks like pretty neat and clean. But the things required to sort of bring all of this together is a bit complex, right? So you need to have a web page which is built in HTML, and you add some style to it via CSS. You add some interactivity with JavaScript. Then you can integrate it with backend so that you can send information to and fro overall, right? So and of course, I'm also requesting for a lot of other files. Like I'm requesting for these images, which might be, let's say, cached in some CDN, right? You guys know what is a CDN? किसी को पता है CDN क्या होता है? CDN का कुछ आइडिया है क्या होता है? Does anyone know? So CDNs are more or less the edge servers, right? And they are called, let's say, the cloud delivery or content delivery networks. And let's say if I'm requesting for a lot of content, right, which is not going to be pretty changed. So what I can do, I can cache it on some edge server, which is like pretty close to me. And then I can always, upon request, I can serve those, right? So I don't have to always serve it from the server, right? Which is my own server, which is storing those images, right? So that is what is it. Okay. So technical skills may overall ye hoga, and then of course there are a lot of other skills that you'll require to become, let's say, a really good software or full stack developer. So you'll need to have good understanding of how to do system design. Just may you would want to, let's say, learn something called, let's say, backend design, sorry, low level design, high level design. तो कैसे ये सब सारी चीजें करेंगे? So these are all, let's say, also important, right? And then of course you need to have also a good understanding of how networks work, right? So internet is essentially let's say different layers of networks, right? So ये network क्या है overall, right? कैसे काम करता है, right? So you need to think about and learn these skills as well, right? What is even a VPN? How does it work, right? How can I, let's say, host my backend, let's say, app, right, within, let's say, some virtual private cloud, but can expose some bits of it, right, so that public traffic can access those servers, right? So so these are the technical skills that you'll require. You'll need to do some sort of projects across front end and back end, right? So वो सारे projects करने होंगे. Soft skills are important because, let's say, you're not going to write code alone, right? You're not going to build a program alone. You're not going to build a product alone. So you'll always be working with people. So you need to have good communication and soft skills so that you can express your thought, and you can interact with people, learn from them, or maybe someone can learn from you. So soft skills are important, not just for developer, but for anyone in today's age, right? You should have an ability to optimize or, let's say, solve problems. So that is a problem solving ability is good, right? So you're able to think about the problem, think from the first principles, and you are able to get your task done, right? You should be a quick learner. So a lot of time that once you start doing a job of software developer, you'll see that you'll need to, let's say, go through like tons of developer docs. कभी ये API implement करना है, कभी ये लिखना है, right? So you'll always need to, let's say, read some sort of docs. So you need to be able to read some docs, right? And quickly understand what is it saying, and then follow those steps, and then execute, right? That is very important. That is probably one of the most underrated skills for a software developer. Because see, we don't have to know everything, right? We don't have to know everything. We can go ahead and read some docs and get some idea, right? But at least if fundamentals are strong, it's going to be like easy for us following some sort of documentation and then implementing that by following, right? So that is what I feel is pretty underrated, and you should focus on that. Then you multitasker, okay? So of course, I wouldn't encourage, let's say, people to do multitasking, but you have to, right? Because it might depend upon task to task, right? So let's say you are writing a problem, right, or you're building a new feature on your product, right? But there could be some bug that you're resolving, right? And there may be, let's say you want to take interview of the new employee that the company wants to hire. Maybe there is a KT session with the juniors of your team. So of course throughout the day you're not just writing code, right? You're interacting with a lot of people. You're let's say doing some additional or different work. So you are expected to be a multitasker, right? You are not expected to be, let's say, spinning up different codes and running different threads, and your jobs are running on all of these parallelly. But you should have a good range in a way. That's what I'm trying to say. You should have a good range, and then think out of the box, right? So so this is of course, I think it's important for anyone in today's world, right? So you have to become an out of the box thinker, right? You have to think about, you have to question the existing narratives, and then think about, right, what happens if it works like this, right? Or maybe you have to come up with like very or unique original ideas. So that's important, right? And of course it will depend upon situation to situation too. Okay, so these are, I think, good set of skills that you should have, not just the technical skills, but some good attributes, some qualities of a good software developer, right? I have already talked about, let's say, the some basic skills like programming आना चाहिए, JavaScript आना चाहिए, DSA आना चाहिए. So you can learn DSA with JavaScript only. You don't need to learn other language like, let's say, C, because see, data structures and algorithm, it is like, it is not that difficult if you actually think about it, right? So overall मैंने आपको बताया ना, सब data का ही खेल है, right? We are, what we are trying to do is always we're trying to, let's say, send data here and there, and then of course have them stored, let's say, temporarily or permanently in some place, in some object. And किस object में कैसे store करेंगे data, that is where we get the idea of data structure, right? So data structures, basic आपको data structures पता है, I think you should be able to do good. And then of course you can learn about advanced. So basic data structures would be, let's say, array, dictionaries, right, list, all of that, right? And then of course your advanced data structures would be, let's say, binary tree, let's say trees, graphs, let's say, uh, right, linked list, heaps, stacks, queues, ये हो सकते हैं. But अगर if you know the fundamental data structures, right? So let's say if you know what is a list or an array, right, you can easily understand how a linked list should behave, right? Or how, let's say, a tree should behave, right? So, and then of course you need to know about front end development. We discussed about that. You need to know about back end development. We also discussed about that. And then of course the advanced skills would be low level design, right? So overall, just give me a second. I think I had made certain notes and just wanted to, yeah, avoid any sort of confusion, right? So overall, um, high level design तो वही होता है, right, where we're trying to overall think about how my entire application is going to work, right? So I'm thinking about the top level components, right? But when you come to low level design, I'm going to like very granular level, and I'm trying to build things there, right, from scratch, right? So let's say you're designing a very very small front end components, you're designing small APIs. So all of those would be, let's say, low level design, right? Then data engineering. So data engineering also important, right? Because let's say once I have gotten some data, let's say, from the front end, right? So or from, let's say, some user activities, right? I'm going to let's say be storing it, and not just be storing it, right? It might be, let's say, sent downstream to maybe the analytics or data science team. So data engineering is important. You might not be required to, let's say, know a lot of this, but you should have a very basic idea that how can data pipelines be built, right? Overall kaise hota hai, right? How can and this work, right? So that is one skill. And then of course product management, right? Because software is not just ruling the world, right? What's ruling the world are good products, right? And of course softwares are how we, let's say, build products, right? But it is not just that. So you'll also, let's say, you also need to have a good idea of, let's say, what a product is and what product management looks like, right? So because you'll be, let's say, going to work in a team, let's say, in a team of 7 to 8 folks, right? So you can think about the distribution of the team like this, right? So एक product manager होगा, right? let's say एक designer होगा, UI UX designer, right, who will build mockups and wireframes, and so that you can then build, let's say, your front end. Then there would be, let's say, two front end developers, right, and there could be, let's say, two back end developers, and there could be, let's say, one QA engineer, right. So this is how, let's say, a small team looks like when you're, let's say, working on a good product overall, right. So these are the skills that are required. Okay. um, okay. uh, so now, of course, so if I have any, let's say, good chance of, let's say, mastering all of these skills, right? It would be, let's say, it would be possible not just by, let's say, watching the videos and, of course, doing some sort of code, but you'll have to do an end-to-end project, right? एक end-to-end project आप करोगे, right? If you are solving, let's say, some practical problem, so then you will be able to see how can I use my knowledge and apply this to solve this, right. So you should be doing some capstone projects which are like full end-to-end projects, and and that will give you a very complete idea of how, let's say, doing how does a classic software development life cycle looks like. Then peer-to-peer projects, or projects on GitHub, right. So you can see a lot of, let's say, very open source projects on GitHub. You can clone them, maybe tweak them, and see what you can do. And then, of course, you can do some sort of, let's say, lead coding, right, and or maybe you can do some code on HackerRank, but I would encourage do some sort of lead coding, and that will help you build your problem solving ability. All right. So next would be, right, uh, सो और क्या क्या चाहिए हमें, राइट. सो अब स्किल तो ये सब सही है, सॉफ्ट स्किल्स में स्पेसिफिकली क्या क्या चाहिए हमें, राइट. सो सॉफ्ट स्किल्स में अगर आप देखो, सो मैंने आपको क्या बताया कि एक पर्सनल ब्रांड तो होना चाहिए आपका, राइट. सो एज इन यू शुड हैव अ गुड गिटहब प्रोफाइल, you should be, let's say, having a good amount of projects there, so that will add a lot of credibility. You can, let's say, start your YouTube channel and make some videos on, let's say, software development. कुछ ideas आप जो भी सीख रहे हो, whatever that you're learning on the way, you can publish those. You can write some good technical blogs. Then business communication is one thing, right. Analytical skills हो गया, let's say, how aptitude सही होना चाहिए. You should have good logical reasoning skills, and then you should be able to, let's say, do some good amount of case studies, as in which will reflect some sort of structured thinking. You are able to sort of connect dots here and there, and you are able to achieve some end goal. Okay. So ये सब हमने देख लिया. Interview process कैसा दिखता है? How does the interview process looks like? So more or less, let's say, if I am hiring, let's say, a full stack developer at AlmaBetter, right. So what would I do? I would first of all, basically, let's say, I would, of course, post my I will create a job description from the recruiter point of view. I will create a job description, list down everything, of course, and then publish it somewhere, like, let's say, on LinkedIn, AngelList, and elsewhere. And then the first step that I would, let's say, I would encourage or expect is to do some sort of technical assessment, right, before any face-to-face interview. So we would give some sort of assignment, and we'll give some, let's say, 24 to 48 hours time, and we'll expect people to sort of, let's say, shortlisted candidates to complete that particular technical assessment, and that will be evaluated. So once we evaluate that, so then comes the round one, which is, yeah, let's say, face to face. So there, let's say, it will be focused on, let's say, coding skills and problem solving abilities. So JavaScript में कुछ questions हो गए, you will be, let's say, asked to, let's say, write some program, and then there could be some other deeper discussion around the technical areas, or whatever the code that you have written, right. So this is usually with, let's say, some mid-level engineer, or maybe, let's say, a team lead. So team lead ke साथ you can expect your round one to happen, right. uh, Round two, so there could be, let's say, multiple rounds. It depends upon company to company, but let's say there could be, let's say, three technical rounds. So round one is where, let's say, you programming ability bhi hogi. Round two, and so round two can be taken by the engineering manager, and they will ask you questions about, let's say, system design, and they might be asking you about a bit of DSA in a way, or it could be about, let's say, overall, let's say, ecosystem in a way, right. They could be, let's say, they could probe you into your discussing your past projects, because let's say whatever project that you have written in your resume, they are going to, let's say, ask about those. How did you do that? What was your thought process? So they will sort of get into your skin, and they will try to get some idea whether you completely know what you have done. Okay. uh, then the next round could be, let's say, with the CTO. Let's say if you are interviewing in a startup, or maybe some head of engineering in a relatively bigger company, and they will be asking you about the project. They will be asking you about some basic technical ideas. They're not going to probe deeper into a lot of things, but they're going to get some good idea from you. And then, of course, the last step would be an HR round, where they're testing your soft skills, your cultural fit. Are you a good fit for the company, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is how the interview process more or less looks like. Okay. Interview questions आपको कुछ एक idea, but this is of course not, let's say, the exhaustive one. But they can ask you, right, what is difference between object oriented programming and functional programming, right? They can give you questions like design a URL shortening service like Bitly, outlining the components and architecture you'd use. um, how do you ensure data consistency and reliability between nodes in a distributed system? So there could be a lot of things that they can ask you in the interview. They can give you a lot of, let's say, interesting coding questions to solve, like, let's say, maybe how to reverse a given string without using any built-in reverse function, right? Or maybe implement a linked list and perform some basic operations like inserting an element, deleting an element, or traversing the list overall, right? So these are like some of the questions that can be asked, right? So ये तो normal questions हो गए. Then you can be asked some case studies as well. So they can ask you that, hey, how can we, let's say, do some basic system design of, or let's say, Facebook needs some feature, right? So how can you design this particular feature, right? Or maybe Netflix needs this feature, right? So how can we go about building that kind of feature, right? How do we build, let's say, software for building, let's say, an autonomous driving, right? So there could be a lot of problem. There could be, let's say, different types of case studies as well, which can require you to know some different technologies. So for example, let's say this Slack's real time chat platform, right? So this might require you to understand good, or have good idea about what are web sockets, right? And how can we do, let's say, sort of persistent chatting. So these kind of, let's say, case studies can be asked. It could be around the entire system design, or it could be around, let's say, building some particular feature of that particular application or software. So these are the kind of questions you can expect. Of course, this is not exhaustive, and you can in fact Google, right, interview questions for software developers, and you'll find tons of useful resources. But I hope this gives you some idea, right? Um then the next thing is, so this is pretty much, I think, I wanted to cover today, right? And so I think I am open to sort of taking questions from you guys if you have some doubts. Meanwhile, I think I would encourage Shubham from team to take yeah take over and walk the students through the platform of AlmaBetter, and how they can, let's say, do their study and everything that they need to learn. Okay. So Shubham, are you there? Okay. So yeah, you can go ahead and share your screen, and right. So I mean, so and folks, I think if you are finding this interesting, I would encourage that you put your questions in the Q&A, and then we can. I think there are certain questions already which I can start answering. I don't see a lot of questions. Alma X के बारे में शुभम बता देंगे. I want to know about web development deeply. हमने समझ गए बहुत deeply. Sir, is there any course for AI engineer for getting job as AI engineer? Right, है ना? You can do our master's course in data science, right, Praveen? So our master's course is like fully designed to make you an AI engineer. Okay, so you can look at that. Okay, so look at our masters in DS course on our website. You'll get some idea. I am from non-tech. I want to make a career in information technology, but confused. data analyst or web development. See, it depends upon your acumen, right? If you think that you enjoy programming, then you can get into web development. But if you like doing things on towards more or less on the business side, so then I would encourage that you should become a data analyst. Okay. So course curriculum के बारे में एक बार बता देते हैं. I think I'll just share my screen and I will just walk you through the course curriculum, right? So अगर आप course curriculum आपको देखना है what you guys can do today, right? So आप जैसे आप इसमें जाओगे, right? Full stack web development, right? This is the page, and so of course the curriculum is given here, but I can give you some idea, right? So आप क्या कर सकते हो? You can explore program में click करो, go to the guru.almabetter.com, right? And I will show you the curriculum. Okay. Okay. So all right. So certification in full stack web development में जाते हैं. You go to learn. Okay. And then so so this is a 6 months program, right? And classes happen between, of course, 8 to 10 p.m. Around 3 to 4 days in a week. मॉड्यूल वन इज टोटली फोकस्ड ऑन टीचिंग यू जावास्क्रिप्ट. सो यहाँ पे जावास्क्रिप्ट सीखोगे पूरा एंड टू एंड. ES6 के स्टैंडर्ड्स हो गए, राइट? OOP क्या होता है, फंक्शनल प्रोग्रामिंग, असिंक फंक्शंस, राइट? डॉम APIs, ये सब क्या होते हैं, सब सीखोगे. Then in module 2 you're going to learn some bit of DSA, very basic DSA, not a lot of it, but introduction to DSA, recursion, stacks and queues, sorting and searching algorithms, linked list. So these are the things that you learn in module 2. Module 3 is on front end development. So learn about HTML, CSS, and how you can, let's say, use JavaScript along with that. And then you learn about React, and then advanced React, where you learn about Redux, how to do state management, how to do UI unit testing. So a lot of bit, right? Then comes backend development, right? Where you're going to learn about databases, right? You're going to learn about databases. So यहाँ पे MySQL पढ़ोगे आप, non relational भी पढ़ोगे, which is MongoDB. So how to do CRUD operations in your database, so वो करोगे. And then the last chapter is on teaching you Node.js and Express.js. So how you can build, let's say, backend servers using Express, how you can write APIs via Node, and then do a lot of tasks, right? So ये हो गया. And then the last module is on teaching you practical software engineering, right? Because right, let's say writing code is not the end of it, right? You have to let's say deploy your code somewhere. So we are teaching you basics of, let's say, AWS, and then you will be doing a full blown industry grade implementation. You will be writing doing two projects alongside the instructor, and you're going to, let's say, write the entire app, and then of course host it and deploy it somewhere. Okay. So these are the five modules that you'll learn. And then of course here only you'll get some idea about how about the CI/CD pipelines, or the extra bits that we discuss in the DevOps as well. All right. So ये curriculum होगा. And so all right. Okay, Shubham, I think you can go ahead and take this over.
Hi guys, good evening, and thank you Vikas for introducing me. I hope the session went well for everyone till now. And Vikas is here. If you have any questions, you can write in the chat box or in the question answer panel regarding the technical things or about the curriculum part or any questions. Vikas will be definitely answering them all. And till the time now, I'll be moving ahead and I'll be sharing the entire dashboard, how it looks like, how the studies go on, and how the learnings happen at AlmaBetter. Okay, so am I clearly audible and visible to everyone? Can I get some thumbs up? Great, 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 great. So guys, मैं थोड़ा सा ना इंटरैक्टिविटी पसंद करता हूँ. सो आई नीड एवरीवन टू पार्टिसिपेट. आई नो कि आप लोग अभी तक सेशन में थे. यू हैव लर्नड अ लॉट ऑफ things from this session. Yes, Abhishek, definitely. I got all your questions that you know. You are very keen to know about Alma Better, Alma X program, as well as about the eligibility criteria for that and the placement things. I'll be definitely helping you with every solutions. And Ashish is also very much interested to know about the Alma X program as well as the placement strategies. What we do, कैसे इतना बड़ा challenge हम ले लेते हैं कि भाई आपको हम minimum 5 LPA का पैकेज गारंटी करेंगे ही करेंगे, because so many of you must have heard that in the industry recession is going on. कई सारे कॉलेजेस आपको बोलेंगे शायद कि अभी कंपनीज नहीं आ रही हैं, प्लेसमेंट नहीं हो रहे हैं. So this is just a myth. This is just a we can say it's just a bahana by those people who are not able to make you competent according to the industry. So first let's understand कि AlmaBetter इतना बड़ा challenge accept कैसे कर रहा है. So we can take AlmaBetter as a bridge between you and the industry. बिकॉज देखो चलना आपको है, लेकिन अगर वो रास्ता अगर हम आसान कर देंगे, अगर आपको हम कॉम्पिटेंट बना देते हैं इंडस्ट्री के अकॉर्डिंग टू द रिक्वायरमेंट्स, यू कैन इजीली go there and you can land with the dream job what you were actually looking for. ठीक है. So as Vikas rightly said, the average package for the people who have a perfect knowledge. अब देखो दो तरह के लोग होते हैं. एक होते हैं कि भाई मैंने इंजीनियरिंग कर ली है, नाउ मैं तो भाई आग लगा दूंगा, मेरा अच्छा पैकेज लग जाएगा, ये सैलरी होगी वो सैलरी होगी. नाउ ही स्टार्ट्स पोस्टिंग प्रोफाइल्स ऑन लिंक्डइन, इंडीड एंड सब जगह पे 400-500 जगह पे अप्लाई कर दिया, लेकिन आफ्टर 3-4 मंथ्स इटसेल्फ ही फाइंड्स दैट कि उसको 4-5 भी कॉल नहीं आए इंटरव्यू के लिए. सो वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस क्राइटेरिया कि ये क्यों हो रहा है, राइट. दिस क्राइटेरिया मेक्स अस बिलीव दैट कि हाँ भाई रिसेशन चल रहा है, बट ऐसा रिसेशन नहीं है. If you want to see that actually placements are happening or not, I recommend you to personally go to AlmaBetter's official LinkedIn page. I can say literally आप वहां पे जब प्रोफाइल्स देखोगे ना कि बीए बैकग्राउंड वाले पर्सन ने वेब डेवलपमेंट का कोर्स करके एक सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपर का रोल लिया है एंड विद अ पैकेज ऑफ 9 LPA, इवन एज अ फ्रेशर. बीए बैकग्राउंड से आने वाला बंदा है, like never relatable with this software development. Am I right or wrong? Can I get some thumbs up if I am right? लोग आप बोलेंगे बीए वाला कैसे कर सकता है. Am I right? Yes, no, thumbs up, कुछ रिएक्शन मिलेगा मुझे. Yeah. So one of the biggest example who's sitting in front of you is Vikas. He was a civil engineer and I am also a civil engineer, and हमें civil engineer में कभी coding नहीं सिखाई गई. And I personally took civil engineering because मुझे नफरत थी, I can say that. But then to civil engineering background से आते हुए वे विकास श्रीवास्तव is sitting in front of you as a CTPO. So it makes sense, right? So हमें अगर फील्ड में एंटर करना है, so we should be perfect in the technical skills first of all, because हर इंडस्ट्री की एक रिक्वायरमेंट होती है. And the requirements I hope you all are clear about कि इस सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट इंडस्ट्री की क्या रिक्वायरमेंट्स है. इसके साथ में सॉफ्ट स्किल्स, ऑब्वियसली एज विकास सेड, सॉफ्ट स्किल्स में 95% ऑफ इंडियंस नो दैट टॉकिंग इन इंग्लिश इज कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स, but it is not the fact, guys. There are different types of communication skills. So we have to learn about all those skills कि भाई क्लाइंट को आंसर कैसे करते हैं, how we have to answer the mails, है ना. ये सारी चीजें हमें सीखनी है. And when we become, because some of the people think that they know everything. I think कि आप लोगों के साथ में भी ऐसा होता होगा, लोग सोचते हैं मुझे सब कुछ आता है. But at the end we have to crack the interview, right? Interviewer is not a fool. They'll be checking everything कि आपको आता है कि नहीं आता है. Correct. So how does this happens कि आप कैसे प्रूव कर सकते हो कि आपको आता है? By your projects, right? So projects are also an important part which should be reflected properly in your profile. Now one of the major problem during the interviews is that we do not know how to approach, राइट. एक प्रॉब्लम जो है कि आप 200 300 400 जगह पे अप्लाई कर रहे हैं, बट यू आर नॉट गेटिंग द रिवॉर्ड्स. द मेजर प्रॉब्लम इज यू आर नॉट एबल टू अप्रोच प्रॉपर्ली. फॉर दैट अ परफेक्ट रेज्यूमे should be there, a perfect profile should be there, and you should be aware about the environment of the industry, how to crack the interviews. Okay, so the program of AlmaBetter looks very beautifully designed according to the industrial relevant curriculum, okay, designed by multiple universities and biggest minds of our country, जो कि आपको उस तरीके से पढ़ाएंगे कि जो भाई इंडस्ट्री रेलेवेंट चीजें हैं वो अगर आपको आ जाएंगे तो ऑब्वियसली चीज है कि आप कोई भी इंटरव्यू जाओगे सो यू कैन बी वेरी मच एबल टू क्लियर दैट इंटरव्यू। ठीक है, अब सेकेंड चीज होती है उसकी प्रैक्टिस होना। सो Alma Better will teach you first all the things and then will help you with the practice part also, that is industrial oriented, and then with the projects and with the certification, which is a professional certification category certification. So that will improve the weightage of your profile and also with the placement guarantee as you must have seen on the website. So let's move towards the dashboard now. Once let's have a detailed view of the dashboard, as Vikas already have shared you the curriculum wala part. Let's discuss about the classes wala part and the recordings wala part, because the learning will happen in two ways at AlmaBetter. The first way is live and interactive learning through the live classes. लाइव क्लासेस, अब देखना कुछ लोग ड्रॉप करते जाएंगे धीरे धीरे, वो ऐसे लोग होंगे जिनको लगता है कि उनने सब देख लिया वेबसाइट में, बट एट द एंड व्हेन इट कम्स टू द एंड ऑफ द कोर्स पार्ट या पार्टिसिपेशन वाला पार्ट, इफ यू आस्क एनी क्वेश्चन दे डू नॉट नो एनीथिंग। सो इफ यू वांट कि हाँ मुझे डिटेल्स मिले, what a bigger mistakes freshers do or the college students do is they do not listen। देखिए हम लोगों के टाइम पे भाई जब हमने 2015-16 में इंजीनियरिंग कंप्लीट किया था ना, we were not having anyone to guide us and we did by us, but यहाँ पे आप लोगों को एक ऐसा सॉल्यूशन मिलता है जहाँ पे आपको कम से कम कोई गाइड करने वाला है कि how the program looks like, how the help will be provided, so at least listen to it। ठीक है, अगर कोई क्वेश्चंस होंगे डेफिनेटली आई विल बी आंसरिंग इट। सो आई विल बी रिक्वेस्टिंग ऑल ऑफ यू कि टिल द टाइम व्हेन आई एम शोइंग द डैशबोर्ड, आपके कोई भी डाउट रहते हैं डैशबोर्ड को रिलेटेड एनीथिंग, प्लीज राइट इन द चैट बॉक्स सो दैट आई कैन रिपीट दैट थिंग अगेन और आई कैन एक्सप्लेन यू इन अ बेटर मैनर। ओके, सो लेट मी शेयर माय स्क्रीन नाउ। Okay guys, so is my screen visible to everyone? Yes, no, thumbs up, anything? Okay, thank you. So this is the dashboard, what it looks like after the enrollment process. Dashboard अभी भी आपको दिखेगा, but complete access आपके पास नहीं होगा। When you enroll into the program, you get the complete access of the dashboard. Dashboard has several components. First one is home, then learn, classroom, practice, project, career, mentorship, job board. Let's understand everything. The first one is home section. Home section is a combination of everything: the pre-recorded content part, the live classroom part, okay, the refer and learn part, the quizzes part, additional resources part, supplementary courses part. There are few people who are never related to the coding skills, so they can start the basics from here also कि supplementary courses हैं, internet क्या होता है, web क्या होता है, HTML क्या होता है, CSS क्या होता है, इसकी प्रोग्रामिंग कैसे होती है, every detail will be explained in the supplementary courses which will be available free of cost to all of you. Then comes the second part. The mode of learning is pre-recorded content in this learn section, where you will be getting the pre-recorded part of the whole curriculum for your self-paced learning, including the notes and the requirements of this. So let's open any one of the lesson here. See, here is the theory part. What is the agenda? What we are going to learn in this section? How to code? Everything is mentioned. Then we can see the recording of this lecture, जो कि सब one of the best lecture होगा इस particular topic को लेके. And also after completing every topic, you will be getting quizzes, assignments, and competency challenges based on the questions asked in any company's interview. So इससे आपको टॉपिक के ऊपर कमांड तो जैसे आप देख रहे हो कि मिलेगी मिलेगी, इसके साथ में इंटरव्यू की प्रिपरेशन भी आपकी बेटर हो पाएगी स्टार्टिंग से. So for every topic you'll be seeing that. Also module wise projects. So projects आपने शायद देखे होंगे बैकएंड डेवलपमेंट में अगर हम आते हैं. So competency test you can see capstone project. Capstone project is a backend project जिसमें हम सेवरल टॉपिक्स में से कोई एक टॉपिक सिलेक्ट करके प्रोजेक्ट कर सकते हैं. लेट्स सी एनी ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट. वन इज जोमैटो ऑर्डर्स. लेट्स सी जोमैटो ऑर्डर्स का बैकएंड प्रोजेक्ट देखते हैं. सो आई कैन सी द प्रोजेक्ट डिस्क्रिप्शन, व्हाट आई हैव टू डू इन दिस प्रोजेक्ट. ठीक है, इस पूरे प्रोजेक्ट का वैल्यूएशन किस किस क्राइटेरिया पे होगा, कैसा मेरा मार्किंग स्ट्रेटेजी होगा, वो मैं देख सकता हूँ. इसके बाद में एक सैंपल प्रेजेंटेशन है, हाउ वी हैव टू प्रेजेंट आवर प्रोजेक्ट आफ्टर कंप्लीटिंग इट. ठीक है, एंड देन द फाइनल चेकलिस्ट. और उसके बाद में फिर देन यू कैन सबमिट द प्रोजेक्ट. दिस इज द जर्नी ऑफ अ प्रोजेक्ट आफ्टर कंप्लीटिंग एवरी मॉड्यूल. सो प्री रिकॉर्डेड कंटेंट, उसके साथ में थ्योरी पार्ट, उसके साथ में प्रैक्टिस पार्ट, एंड देन प्रोजेक्ट्स वाला पार्ट. This was one mode of learning. The second and the most important and the crucial part, because what happens in so many platforms you must have seen, कि वो लोग रिकॉर्डिंग चला देंगे, वहां पे एक बंदा बैठा हुआ है, वो आपके डाउट्स क्लियर कर देगा. नहीं भी करेगा तो उनको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है, they will be ending the session. There are some platforms they provide only the recordings, right? So ऐसा नहीं है, रिकॉर्डिंग्स तो है, प्री रिकॉर्डेड कंटेंट तो है. इसके साथ में क्लासरूम सेक्शन है. क्लासरूम सेक्शन इज द section where you will be able to access the live classes. इधर आपका जो live classes का schedule है, that is updated in every interval. Okay, so week में 3 to 4 days ये live and interactive classes होते हैं evening time पे, that is evening 8 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. and इसी प्लेटफॉर्म पे होते हैं जहाँ पे हम लोग अभी क्लासेस कर रहे हैं. सो यू विल बी इजीली एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड एवरीथिंग. एंड विकास जैसे इंस्ट्रक्टर्स जब आपको पढ़ाएंगे, so you'll be getting much knowledge about the industry and they'll be sharing their personal experiences, the real cases, so you'll be able to understand everything conceptually also. प्लस इन लाइव क्लासेस की रिकॉर्डिंग्स आपको लाइफ टाइम एक्सेस के साथ भी अवेलेबल होती है, वेयर यू कैन सी इन द कंप्लीटेड सेक्शन. अपकमिंग इज द सेक्शन वेयर यू कैन सी द लाइव क्लासेस व्हिच आर अपकमिंग, एंड कंप्लीटेड इज द सेक्शन जहां पे आपको रिकॉर्डिंग्स मिलेंगे. ओके, यहाँ पे भी आपको केवल रिकॉर्डिंग्स नहीं है, रिकॉर्डिंग्स के साथ में उस क्लासरूम में क्या क्या कंटेंट यूज हुआ है, एवरीथिंग विल बी अवेलेबल. ओके, सो यू कैन इजीली सी दैट पार्ट. नाउ कम्स द प्रैक्टिस पार्ट. सो प्रैक्टिस में आपको जो टॉपिक वाइज जो क्विजेस, असाइनमेंट्स एंड चैलेंजेस मिल रहे हैं, उसके साथ में एडिशनल प्रैक्टिस के लिए ये यहाँ पे कंटेंट अवेलेबल होगा, इंक्लूडिंग द इंफॉर्मेशन की किस कंपनी के किस कंपनी में ये क्वेश्चंस पूछे गए थे. ओके, सो क्लाइंबिंग स्टेयर्स इन फ्री चार्ज, इन एयरटेल एंड इन विश्लेषण, यहाँ पे ये इंटरव्यूज पूछे गए थे बेस्ड ऑन जावास्क्रिप्ट. द डिफिकल्टी लेवल वाज इजी लेवल, स्टेटस इज सॉल्व्ड और अनसॉल्व्ड. So you can easily practice lot of questions related to the topics. You can even filter them out कि किस कंपनी में पूछा गया था, क्या स्किल सेट से रिलेटेड आप क्विजेस करना चाहते हो. Supplementary courses are available here also, coding assessments, quiz assessments. This is for the practice part. Then comes the project. तो वो जो प्रोजेक्ट मॉड्यूल वाइज आपको मिल रहे हैं वो तो है ही, इसके साथ में आप एडिशनल प्रोजेक्ट्स यहाँ पे आके कर सकते हो. Then comes the career वाला part. Many of you were having a question about AlmaX part. So let's discuss that AlmaX part. But you have to first qualify all these things. Then जब आप AlmaX में आने के लिए आपको कोर्स कंप्लीट करना होता है by submitting the projects, assignments, ये जो competency challenges है इसको qualify करके आप AlmaX में आ सकते हो. But AlmaX में आने के पहले आपको एक टेस्ट देना होता है जिसका नाम है AB-CAT test. AB-CAT test is about the competency challenge कि हम ये चेक करना चाहते हैं कि आपने प्रॉपर्ली पढ़ाई की है कि नहीं. Because after this program we are going to give a guarantee to the students, a placement guarantee. So इसके लिए इस AB-CAT को टेस्ट को क्वालिफाई करने के लिए आपको 5 अटेम्प्ट्स मिलते हैं. The qualification score is only 60% marks, जिसमें 70% easy level question आते हैं, 20% moderate level question आते हैं, and केवल 10% tough level questions आते हैं. And the syllabus is same what we are going to teach you. ठीक है, और इसको क्वालिफाई करने के बाद में then we ask you to sign the income share agreement, which is about the placement guarantee, in which it will be clearly mentioned that the career services fees will be charged after the placements if you get any package above 5 lakh per annum. So this is the entrance of AlmaX, जहाँ पे ISA sign करने के बाद आप AlmaX में आते हो. So now if we talk deeply about the AlmaX, then AlmaX is the प्लेसमेंट ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम. प्लेसमेंट ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम जिसमें इंटरव्यू रिलेटेड स्किल्स हम आपको सिखाते हैं. जैसे सबसे पहली चीज अप्रोच का तरीका, व्हाट आई इन्फॉर्म्ड. सो resume building, LinkedIn profile optimization, different types of communication skills जैसी important training आपको मिलती है in AlmaX, and the duration of AlmaX is around 1.5 months to 2 months. इसमें आपको 50 प्लस मॉक इंटरव्यूज के थ्रू हम आपको ट्रेन करते हैं, एनवायरनमेंट आपको बताते हैं जिसमें डिफरेंट राउंड्स के अकॉर्डिंग डिफरेंट मॉक इंटरव्यूज होंगे. एक पर्सनल मेंटोर विल बी असाइनिंग फॉर योर असिस्टेंस, हु विल बी गाइडिंग यू थ्रू आउट द जर्नी. एंड मीनवाइल जब आप एल्मा एक्स में ट्रेनिंग ले रहे होते हैं उसी टाइम पे एल्मा बेटर की एक टीम आपकी प्रोफाइल के अकॉर्डिंग, हमारे जो 700 से ज्यादा रिक्रूटमेंट पार्टनर्स है उनकी एक प्रायोरिटी लिस्ट बनाती है अबाउट योर एजुकेशनल बैकग्राउंड, अबाउट योर वर्क एक्सपीरियंस. आई सो वन ऑफ यू गाइस वर्किंग इन बैंकिंग एंड फाइनेंस सेक्टर. So if there is any banking or NBFC company looking for a backend developer or a front-end developer or a full stack developer, so we'll be prioritizing your profile there. इस तरीके से आपके प्रोफाइल को प्रायोरिटाइज किया जाएगा and will be scheduling interviews for you, and according to those scheduled interviews will be helping you again with the personalized training for that particular round, and then we make you sit for the interview. So this is the Alma X. आई होप अभी आपको क्लियर हो गया होगा अभिषेक, राइट? व्हाट इज एल्मा एक्स? इज इट क्लियर अभिषेक? यस, नो, थम्स अप, एनीथिंग? अभिषेक, एल्मा एक्स क्या है? ओके, अभिषेक के मैं रिप्लाई का वेट कर रहा हूँ. टिल द टाइम आई वोंट बी मेकिंग यू गाइस टू वेट. तो करियर सेक्शन आप लोगों को क्लियर हो गया. दिस इज अबाउट द जर्नी ऑफ योर प्रोग्राम एंड द एंट्रेंस टू एल्मा एक्स एंड these things. Now, additionally, we provide you mentorship sessions with the industry experts, one-on-one mentorship sessions. So if you are stuck somewhere, if you want some additional knowledge, अब हमारा प्रोग्राम भी क्लियर हो गया, हम एल्मा एक्स में भी आ गए, बट वी डू नॉट हैव इनफ कॉन्फिडेंस टू गिव द इंटरव्यूज, सो वी कैन डायरेक्टली बुक अ mentorship session directly coming to this section. रेज्यूमे गाइडेंस चाहिए, इंटरव्यू गाइडेंस चाहिए, आई विल बी क्लिकिंग हियर कि मुझे इंटरव्यू गाइडेंस चाहिए, एंड यहाँ से मैं अपने टाइम स्लॉट्स जो भी मुझे प्रेफर्ड है वो सिलेक्ट करके आई कैन बुक अ सेशन, एंड देन आई विल बी गेटिंग द कंफर्मेशन फ्रॉम द मेंटर, और वहां से मैं डिस्कस करके अपने सारे पॉइंट्स क्लियर कर सकता हूँ. वन मोर गिफ्ट फ्रॉम एल्मा बेटर, वी कैन से अ गिफ्ट ओनली, बिकॉज जॉब बोर्ड अभी क्या होता है ना कि बहुत क्लटर्ड है सारी चीजें, है ना. लिंक्डइन पे भी 70% ओपनिंग्स आज के टाइम पे एजेंसीज डाल रही हैं, विच आर डुप्लीकेट ओपनिंग्स, जो कि 1 महीने पहले 2 महीने पहले आई थी. वी आर नॉट इजीली लाइक एबल टू फिगर आउट एवरीथिंग ना. तो उसके लिए ये जॉब बोर्ड है विच इज फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट फॉर एवरीवन. So you can see all the available jobs posted on different platforms. Filter out here, जहाँ पे आप देख सकते हो, जैसे मैं इसको फिल्टर आउट करता हूँ कि मुझे रिमोट अपॉर्चुनिटी चाहिए, वेब डेवलपमेंट रोल के लिए चाहिए, एंड परमानेंट रोल के लिए चाहिए. सो आई कैन सी मर्नस्टैक डेवलपर की ओपनिंग है, आई कैन रीड द डिस्क्रिप्शन, आई कैन रीड द जेडी एवरीथिंग, एंड आई कैन डायरेक्टली अप्लाई आल्सो बाय क्लिकिंग ऑन दिस लिंक. फुल स्टैक इंजीनियर की जरूरत है, फ्रंट एंड डेवलपर की जरूरत है, मर्नस्टैक डेवलपर. सो भाई कौन बोल रहा है कि ओपनिंग्स नहीं है? कौन बोल रहा है कि जॉब्स नहीं है? हियर वी आर. So, ये तो केवल ओपनिंग्स जो पोजीशंस वहां पे डली हुई है केवल वो है. I don't know how many of you know about it or not, but recently the chairperson of SBI posted on social media that there are going to be 12,000 new openings in the IT department of SBI. So SBI में अगर 12,000 पोजीशंस निकल रही जो कि सबसे कम ओपनिंग्स देता है, तो अब आप समझ सकते हो कि इस आईटी सेक्शन में, इस टेक्निकल सेक्शन में क्या स्कोप है. जब एसबीआई जैसी कंपनी, एसबीआई जैसा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अगर ऐसी पोस्ट डाल रहा है, तो देयर आर सो मेनी ओपनिंग्स, बट द थिंग इज व्हाट, इफ यू वांट टू ग्रैब दैट पोजीशन, आपको टेक्निकली स्ट्रांग होना पड़ेगा. डजंट मैटर आप किस बैकग्राउंड से आ रहे हैं, क्या आपका क्वालिफिकेशन है, बस आपका ग्रेजुएशन होना चाहिए. इट विल बी क्वाइट इजी by learning the skill set to enter into this IT domain, either as a software engineer or as a web developer or as a DevOps engineer, और अगर आप डेटा साइंस की तरफ जाते हैं तो डेटा साइंस इंजीनियर, डेटा एनालिस्ट, बिजनेस एनालिस्ट, ऐसे कई सारे जॉब रोल्स अवेलेबल हैं. एंड द एवरेज पैकेज फॉर एवरी जॉब रोल इज बिटवीन 8 लाख टू 10 लाख पर annum फॉर फ्रेशर्स. आई एम सेइंग, हाँ, जो सीनियर पोजीशन पे डेफिनेटली वी कैन एक्सपेक्ट मोर. Okay. And yes, we have a community platform also with us. Community is a platform where all our instructors, mentors, and alumni are connected with us. So we can say it's a Facebook for us. You can connect with them, and you can have conversation about the future openings in their companies, and you can take help from there. Okay. So I guess कि ये पूरा डैशबोर्ड आप लोगों को क्लियर हो गया होगा, एंड ऑल्सो द प्रोग्राम डिटेल्स आर ऑल्सो क्लियर टू यू, राइट? यस, नो, एनीथिंग कि आपको प्रोग्राम डिटेल्स क्लियर हुए नहीं हुए? Yes, no. Okay. Okay, guys. So I have some surprises also for everyone. So I'll be sharing after a few minutes. So many of you are waiting for the surprise because you must have seen something that you'll be getting some additional things. Okay. So let me take you towards the website again. So this is the website where you can see the details of full stack web development program, and you can see the detailed curriculum, the faculties, instructors, everything. You can see the certificate, how it looks like. Okay, about the almax curriculum program क्या होता है, ये सारी चीजें about the programs and everything. Here also one more thing is mentioned, that is the fees part, जो आप लोगों के में से बहुत सारे लोगों का क्वेश्चन है. So the fees is divided into two parts. One is the tuition fees, second is the career services fees. So we have two programs. One is premium and one is iconic. So the basic program with only AlmaBetter certification, whereas every service is involved, is premium program. यानी कि इसमें आपको सारी सर्विसेज मिलती हैं लेकिन सर्टिफिकेशन सिर्फ AlmaBetter का मिलता है. Whereas we have another program, iconic program, as we recently have we had a collaboration with IIT Guwahati. So premium program के सारे benefits के साथ साथ additionally IIT गुवाहाटी के प्रोफेसर्स के साथ आपको मास्टर क्लासेस मिलते हैं, एडिशनल मास्टर क्लासेस, अ 2 days कैंपस इमर्शन एट आईआईटी गुवाहाटी, डेडलाइन एक्सटेंशन. अब डेडलाइन एक्सटेंशन यानी कि जो एबी कैट एग्जाम हम लोग देख रहे थे उसको क्वालिफाई करने के लिए प्रीमियम प्रोग्राम में आपको 12 months का टाइम मिलता है, whereas in iconic program you'll be getting additional 6 months to qualify that, and it's a dual certification program, तो जिसमें आपको अल्मा बेटर के साथ साथ आईआईटी गुवाहाटी का भी सर्टिफिकेशन मिलता है. So the tuition fees is charged at the time of admission. Premium program के लिए आप लोग देख रहे हो 30,000 plus 18% GST means 35,400, and iconic program के लिए it is 60,000 plus 18% GST means 70,800. And for this, the career services fees after signing the ISA or placement के बाद में, it is for the premium program it is 1,50,000 which will be charged after your placement if you get any placement above 5 lakh per annum as 10,000 rupees per month. इसको और इजीली एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ. 10,000 रुपए महीना 15 महीने तक चार्ज होगा if you get any package above 5 lakh per annum. That's the guarantee what we're doing, and it is a fixed fees, percentage wise नहीं है. And for the iconic program, the IIT Guwahati wala program, the fees is 10,000 rupees per month, but for only 10 months. Same condition अगर आपका पैकेज 5 LPA ऊपर लगेगा तो. I hope both the programs are clear to everyone now. Is it? सोनम, 2015 में आपका ग्रेजुएशन हुआ था, किस फील्ड से हुआ था? जैसे BCA, BSc, BTech, क्या डोमेन था आपका? Or else I can do one thing for everyone, that कि अगर आप लोग कुछ ऐसी चीजें जो वन ऑन वन डिस्कशन करना चाहते हो आप लोग, so I'm sharing a form link. You can fill this form, guys, so that any one of us can easily connect with you and discuss all these details on a personal level with you guys. Okay, so BCSC, Sonam, and do you have any work experience, Sonam, in any of the field? Sonam, I request you to please fill this form by clicking on this link which I've shared you in the chat box. आप वहाँ से form fill कर दो, and हम लोग आपको कनेक्ट करके पर्सनली ये सारी चीजें इन्फॉर्म कर देंगे. बाय द वे, I think that your profile is eligible, but then too we have to check something more. And eligibility is not related to the program. Eligibility is related to the placement guarantee, जिसको हम कॉल पे डिस्कस करते हैं. आप फॉर्म फिल कर दीजिए. I'll be helping you out there. Okay. एंड ठीक है. सो ये प्रोग्राम था गाइस, ये सारी चीजें थी. सो ट्यूशन फीस इज टू बी चार्ज एट द टाइम ऑफ एडमिशन. एंड इसके लिए आई एम गोइंग टू शेयर समथिंग फ्रॉम माय साइड. And it's here. Please copy this code to get a discount or scholarship on the tuition fees, guys. So you can get a 20% scholarship on the tuition fees of both the programs, Premium and Iconic, by using this code, that is MANG20. And after getting the scholarship too, you can convert the fees into no cost EMIs. Okay, so the scholarship is available for the next batch coming up on 24th of this month. सो जो लोग भी करना चाहते हैं. एंड वन मोर थिंग गाइस कि डिले करना मतलब एक एक दिन की सैलरी का डिले करना है. एंड द मोस्ट प्रीमियम टाइम और द क्रूशियल टाइम फॉर द प्लेसमेंट इन दिस इंडस्ट्री इज कूपन कोड इज MAANG20, Abhishek. So the crucial time इज बिटवीन सितंबर टू नवंबर, जहां पे सबसे ज्यादा प्लेसमेंट की संभावनाएं होती हैं इन आईटी फील्ड. सो आई वुड रिकमेंड एवरीवन टू स्टार्ट अर्ली सो दैट वी कैन गेट प्रिपेयर्ड टिल द टाइम. एंड वन मोर थिंग कि ये 24th वाली बैच के लिए है. एंड एवरी बैच वी हैव अ लिमिटेड नंबर ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स, ओनली 35 to 40 स्टूडेंट्स. सो जो पहले इसमें एनरोल करेगा यूजिंग दिस कोड, दे विल बी गेटिंग द चांस. वंस द सीट्स आर फुल, वी कैन नॉट हेल्प यू विद द scholarships further because we have a particular quota for that. So please use the code and make maximum benefits of it. And also जिनको problems आ रही हैं, please click on the link which I have shared you to connect with us. And also guys, अगर आप लोगों के पास में आपने इंक्वायरी की है तो आपके पास में काउंसलर्स के कॉल आएंगे. प्लीज टू रिस्पॉन्ड टू दोस कॉल. एंड आप लोगों के जो भी क्वेश्चन अगर पेंडिंग रह गए, आप यहाँ पे नहीं पूछ पाए हो, सो यू कैन ask on calls as well. ठीक है guys, anything else you want to ask from my side or from Vikas side? Is there any question guys? I'll be waiting for 2 more minutes. If there is any question, then fine, I'll be answering them. If not, then we'll be saying bye bye. Any question guys? Okay, then I think there is no question from anyone. Okay, I got a question now. Yes, Abhishek, please tell me. MANG20 is showing invalid. Just let me check it once again. It's showing valid, man. MAANG20 for the premium program also. And for the iconic program also. Oh, okay. Yes, it is a valid dost. Please try again. Yeah, Abhishek, I'm writing in the chat box, guys. MAANG20. Please see कि वहाँ पे कोई गैप तो नहीं रह गई है, स्पेस नहीं रह गई है, and everything is in capital, Abhishek. I have written in the chat box. And the guys who are facing problems with the EMI conversions, please to let me know by filling the form. Definitely will be connecting you again. So एक second. It is showing valid, Abhishek. एक बार आप चेक करो, आप डेटा साइंस में तो नहीं पुट अप कर रहे हो. ओके, ठीक है अभिषेक, मैं आपको पर्सनली व्हाट्सएप पे वापस से शेयर करवाता हूँ. इफ इट इज शोइंग इनवैलिड, नॉट टू वरी, आई विल बी हेल्पिंग यू विद दैट कोड. मैं आपको व्हाट्सएप पे पर्सनली शेयर करता हूँ. एंड इफ देयर इज नो क्वेश्चन देन वी कैन से बाय बाय टू एवरीवन. एंड अगर कोई और डाउट्स हैं, यू कैन इजीली रेज अ कॉल बैक रिक्वेस्ट बाय डायरेक्टली गोइंग टू द डैशबोर्ड. विल बी डेफिनेटली हेल्पिंग यू आउट. ओके, चलिए देन, ठीक है. थैंक यू सो मच एवरीवन फॉर ज्वाइनिंग दिस सेशन एंड मेकिंग इट इंटरैक्टिव. एंड please reach us out by requesting a call back directly going to the dashboard. We'll be definitely reaching you out very soon. Bye bye.